guys, today was supposed to be pass day. As you can tell, the pavement's wet, and so is the windshield. It is still early though, so we might be able to still get a pass in later. Been doing some tuning on the chassis. Got the steering issues mostly resolved, I think. I did add just a little bit more camber to the front. Just basically backed each bottom pillow ball out a half a turn. I think that'll be okay, just to further help try to keep the front end straight. I haven't messed with the toe still at all. I did not bring my calipers with me to even try to mess with it, nor do I have a wrench to fit the links with me. So, and I don't plan on messing with it. I think it's all right. Main thing is if you guys are setting up these scorched knuckles, okay, and this my first limitless, so I'm kind of learning as I go. When you think they're still too loose, they're probably not. As long as you have no movement in the balls and you can move them very freely, just like with a fingertip, swing them back and forth, you're good. I actually had them a little bit too tight. I was worried about things falling out and coming apart, and even with Loctite, and so I had them a little bit too tight, and I think that was a lot of my centering issue. That was also putting a lot of stress on the bushings, which caused that top bushing to wallow out. So, learning process. We figure things out as we go. So instead of doing a pass today, what I may end up doing is pulling the shocks and switching out the shock caps and things. Possibly. I don't know yet. I am definitely going to bleed the shocks for sure. They do need to be bled because they haven't been bled since they were put together. Other than that, at least until the pavement dries out, hopefully this afternoon, I'm just going to be fiddling. I really wanted to get a pass done on it today, but it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. At least not yet. Things may change later. We'll see. There's still a lot of daylight left, so hopefully things will dry out and chill out, and I can go and try to get at least a half throttle pass done. There's an access road right over here nearby that should be pretty calm. So we'll try that. Anyway, guys, just a little update. I did figure out, like I said, I've been fiddling with the steering, trying to get it better. Other than that, the car's really, really dialed. I'm still kind of messing with the throttle controller a little bit. There's quite a bit of a delay between the throttle, applying throttle on the transmitter, and the throttle controller actually throttling up the motor. And although it's not spinning the wheels, I'm kind of at the point where on that one, don't fix what ain't broke. It's working, and it's not going sideways. It's not sending the tires up in smoke. So I think we'll just deal with the delay. I think that's part of the throttle controller, though. I got to do some more research on that stuff. But anyway, for those of you who have never dealt with emulsion shocks, notice that the car is all the way off the ground. And yes, my diffs are fine. But to bleed an emulsion shock, okay, you've got your little bleed screw right here. Weight off the tires, back this out. Okay. The only thing you're going to do is that. You're going to wait for a second and then put it back in. This same thing on the hot racing shocks for like the Fortec, the Baja Ray, so on and so forth, or other off-road vehicles. Emulsion shocks are very easy to deal with. If you had a diaphragm shock, you'd be pulling the shock off and pulling the cap to do this. And yes, they also need to be bled every now and then, just to equalize the pressures. Let go, thank you. So every shock, same thing, back it out. Shit, bastard, get it in there. Damn it. Yeah, I can't see that one very well. We'll do that one in a minute. But yeah, back them out. One of the reasons why I want to put the hot racing caps in is they got better screws. The armor bleed screws strip very easily, so if you're running the stock shock caps, be very gentle with them. Don't try to put a lot of force to them, and definitely don't lose them. They are a 1.5 millimeter screw, and typically most people don't have 1.5 sitting around on the bench. Also be very careful not to strip the plastic shock caps. You don't have to crank them down, they just have to be in there. Shock's got to be turned around to where I can get to it. Again, not a big deal. Like this one right here. There it goes. Had to get the angle right. Now, if you're doing droop or something like that, obviously the process is a little bit different. You set the chassis on something that will hold it at ride height that you want, and then you bleed the shocks. That way the chassis will sit down on the height block or whatever that you want. Then when you bleed the shocks, you let the excess oil and everything come out the bleed hole, and you have set your droop. And I'll get this one done. I got to pull that off and flip it around. I forgot about that, but that's how you bleed emulsion shocks. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. But that keeps them nice and flush. Typically you want to do that at ambient temperature where you're going to be running. It's air conditioned in here right now, but it's actually a little bit on purpose. A little bit cooler air in the shock. It means a little bit more pressure it won't compress as easy. And I typically do that at home where I have a thermostat where I can set the temperature. And I usually set it at 68 degrees when I bleed. On the truck, it's a little bit more difficult because I don't have a numbered thermostat to use. I gotta swing this body mount out of the way so I can spin that shock around. But if you can control the temperature, you can actually kind of adjust your shock using the ambient temperature inside and slightly alter the shock compression and rebound a little bit, because you'll have denser air in there than what's outside. Typically we don't run our RCs inside, most of us. But if you are racing indoors and you're running emulsion shocks, understand something. Air temperature is going to affect the shock a lot. Okay, so if you're racing on an indoor track in a air-conditioned environment, it's important to bleed your shocks in that environment. So it's something you should do before every event. Bring your RCs in, let them sit on the bench or whatever for a minute. Typically about 30 minutes would be good enough to let them cool down to the ambient temperature in the room, and then bleed your shocks. That way you end up with shocks that are adjusted to the environment they're going to be running in. Where's my 4-way? Oh, this is going to suck. I could have swore it was in my pocket. So anyway, that's what I'm doing today while I'm waiting on things to dry out. As you can see, I've got the new handy dandy camera phone stand for trying to record the pass already out. The cheapie that I had that I was using broke. The one of the thumb screws, the knob on the thumb screw that was molded into place, stripped out, so I had to get a new one. That is actually a much better one than what I had. Shit. God damn, that's tight. Damn. Okay, well anyway guys, I'm going to mess with this shock, and if I get a pass later on, I will get it posted.